Hi, my name is Samiran Laha, and today I'm going to talk about exchange of coverage database across multiple vendors. As you know, coverage is extremely important in our modern verification flow, and there is a growing need for exchange of coverage database among multiple vendors to unify coverage database and create a single database out of different or multiple vendors. So there is a UCIS standard for exchange of coverage database, which is using the XML language, and in that method a vendor A can dump their coverage database in an XML file, and the vendor B can supposed to or ideally import the XML database using their own tool and then convert that into their proprietary database format. But there is a problem in doing that. As you can see, the performance is one problem. As you can see in this chart, that XML files are huge in size because of this verbosity in nature. So there is, for a simple database, the size is very huge, and if the database size grows, then the size becomes a critical issue. Also, there is a mismatch between the XML and UCIS data schemas, and also multiple vendors have their own different coverage data model which do not properly align or match. So there is a need for messaging of coverage data before we can do the proper exchange. Also, you know that the database are actually binary in nature, and the format is proprietary. That means a coverage database created by vendor A can only be read by the API supplied by vendor A. It cannot be read by any other vendor's API. So there is and you cannot actually also compile two different vendors UCIS C library in one executable. You will have symbol classes, as it's mentioned here. So there is our solution to exchange coverage database from vendor A database to vendor B database. And in our solution, we use two different executables. One is called source, another is called target. And two different executables are linked with two different UCIS C libraries. And these two executables communicate with each other by using this communicator block which we provide. This communicator block is actually a library, and this and part of this communicator block is linked to the source executable, and another part is linked to the target executable. The source executable is linked with vendor A's UCIS API, and which can read only UCIS. The source executable is linked with vendor A specific UCIS API, which can read vendor A's UCIS database. It can scan through the vendor A's database and gets data and sends it to the communicator block. The communicator block is responsible for accepting the data, packaging it, and sending it over to the target. On the target side, the part of communicator block actually unpacks the data, and then it sends to the part of the target block which is responsible for writing the target database. And if there is no mismatch in the coverage data model, then the data can flow directly from source to target, and vendor A's coverage database can be successfully written into vendor B specific coverage database. But if there is a mismatch in the coverage data model or mismatch in any other thing, then we need a data converter placed in between source and communicator. The communicator actually understands the UCIS format, so any mismatch in the source side needs to be converted or messaged properly so that communicator can understand properly, and that data could go to the target, and target can write the output UCIS file. Similarly, this source and target is pluggable and modular. So instead of using UCIS API, any other proprietary API could also be used. Instead of using the C code written in UCIS API, the proprietary code could be plugged into the source as well as in the target. So what we extra need is a data converter block in between source and communicator, and another data converter block in between communicator and target, so that the proprietary data model can be converted to an UCIS data model, which could be transferred over to the target executable, and then in the target executable, that UCIS data model could be converted into the another proprietary coverage data model, which could be written into the appropriate database type. So any kind of API could be used to convert any third party or any other vendor's UCDB to another vendor's UCIS files. But there are still some problems and challenges for code coverage. System Verilog has a strict rule, so functional coverage is fine, but statement coverage, expression coverage, and toggle coverage, for example, have some problems because different vendors supports different data models, which is very difficult to align and convert properly. In summary, I will say the basic exchange of coverage data between vendors using XML is limited not only with respect to performance and capacity, but also with the data model differences, which makes it difficult to exchange one database to another format. So therefore, there is a need for a different method which allows this adjustment to be made and the data exchange is possible. Thank you.